everyone, welcome to my video today. Today we're going to be talking about wedges. And this is, of course, I have here a Mizuno S23 wedge. This is one that I purchased recently, and I'm kind of going to use it to kind of explain how you do a wedge fitting and what are some of the things to consider. And of course, with your purchase, what things you want and don't want versus, what golfer you are. And then maybe some wedges will fit you and others may not. So for example, the first thing you want to, when it comes to a wedge fitting, and when I say wedge fitting, typically when I'm saying that, it's usually done indoors. And that can be a challenge with wedges, I find. But we're going to kind of do our best we can to give you kind of the insight into the best way to do a wedge fitting, inside in a fitting bay. So for example, one of the things that's really important, I think is to hit off of a lie board. And to take a piece of electrical tape and you'll put it on the bottom of the sole. And then you hit 3 or 4 shots off of it. And where it wears on that tape, it's going to tell you some very important things about what wedge, particularly bounce, and also and somewhat to grind as well. But if you're wearing it right here on the leading edge, okay, that means that you're coming down pretty steeply. You probably take big divots and you probably need more bounce. And also probably a wider, fatter, thicker grind. Conversely, if you're hitting it more on the back of the sole, then you're probably going to, that means you're coming in pretty shallow and you barely take a divot, and so you need less bounce, which could be 4 to 6 degrees of bounce, for example. Well, that's rare, I see in most people, but it's possible. So it just depends where you wear on that tape. And if you're somewhere in the middle, that's probably a 10 degrees of bounce or something like that. So where you wear on that tape tells you what bounce you should have, what grind you should have. It goes a long way in doing that. Now, of course, you want to watch the ball flight in the simulator, and how it's spinning, and is it has stopping power, or is it releasing? You kind of look at those things to understand that. Do I have the right one? But before we do that, I also want to explain what bounce is, because I think there is quite a bit of misconception about what it really is. But a bounce is measured from the back of the sole, and it's the angle from the back of the sole to this leading edge right here. So, kind of, from here to here, and that angle is going to tell you, that, like I said, that lie board test is going to tell you what bounce you need. If it's, if you're hitting the leading edge, comes in first, when it contacts the ground, then hey, you're going to need more bounce. If you're more in the middle where you should be, you're kind of like a mid bounce and a 10. And that's, going to determine, what bounce you have. So, and it's about turf interaction, because if you don't have the right bounce, your turf interaction is going to be off, and you're going to have a tendency to hit it fat, or in some cases, every once in a while, I'll see some people that hit it too thin because, it just isn't digging. So, but usually, if you don't have the right bounce, you're going to hit it fat. So you want to make sure that you have the right grind and bounce so that it's going through that turf as efficiently as it possibly can. So that that's the really important part about bounce and grind. That's probably the most important part. But the other part, obviously, you want to see how you're hitting the ball, what the trajectory is. I find that the best wedge shots have more of a moderate launch trajectory. If they get too high, if you hit it too high, that tells when it's rolling up the face and it's just going to come up short, and it's not going to, that's just not a good wedge shot. The best ones are where you're hitting it, probably in the 4th or 5th groove, and you're just wearing that spot out down there, and you're hitting what I would call a moderate launch ball flight, one bounce and stop. In that, especially for those skill players who can do that. And that's what you're looking for there. And you want to get spins, if you're using a 54 to a 60 degree, depending on what loft, somewhere between 8 and 10,000 spin would be what you're looking for. And launching it, somewhere around 30 degrees, probably 28 to 30 would be a good moderate launch angle with a wedge, so that it'll hit and stop. So, and the goal, by lining all of those metrics and data up to those ideals, you're going to hit the best shots. And of course, you're going to hit it closer. shoot lower scores, and that's the bottom line when it comes to wedge play, because remember, 2/3 of your shots, between your wedge and your putter, and that's about 2/3 of your shots come from in a round of golf. So, if you want to lower your scores, it's probably a great place to focus your time on to hit it as best as you possibly can. And of course, make sure your gapping is right. And I've done that on a previous video about, doing a gapping analysis, making sure you have the right gapping between clubs, both on the wedge side and the driver side, obviously. But in terms of a wedge fitting, that's what you want to do, so you can hit the best wedge shots you can, shoot the lower scores, and of course enjoy the game more. So until next time, we'll see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.